Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming today. And I know it's very early for some of you and very late for some, so we really appreciate your time with us today. Welcome to the final presentation and graduation of our 2025 Clean Air Community Ambassadors. I'm calling Rosales and I coordinate this program. And I feel very lucky to have worked with this bright, passionate, and enthusiastic advocates over the course of about 9 months. And I'm really excited for them to share with you all their hard work during all these 9 months. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind folks, and you might have heard that this is a recorded event. This will be posted online, and so if you do not wish to be included, please feel free to turn off your video. Also, to minimize distractions, please make sure your mic is muted, but please feel free to engage in the chat. Please keep it friendly and respectful. Thank you. Okay, with all that said, I wanted to take I want to take this time to thank our funders, supporting our vision of a world where everyone breathes healthy air enabled by universal access to data. And more specifically, I do want to thank the sponsors of the Community Ambassador Program, and they've supported this program for a long time now. Clean Air Fund, AirGradient, and Atmo. Through them, our ambassadors have been provided a stipend, and two sensors, which they used for their projects that they will show you today. So many, many thanks. And please also give a virtual round of applause to our funders who continue to fund this program. If you are interested in helping us fund this program and continuing to train and mentor clean air ambassadors, please feel free to reach out. Your support will help us to run this program, hopefully for perpetuity. Okay, to date, the program has been successfully completed by 25 ambassadors, and after today, we'll have more. Some of our alumni are actually present today, and we've had over 38 low and middle income countries be represented over the history of this program. You can see all of their beautiful faces in this slide. And if you haven't yet visited the new website, ambassadors.openaq.org, I invite you to please do so. Okay, so today we'll be hearing from our 2025 cohort, which is our fourth cohort. And we are in the process of selecting our next cohort, which is super exciting. So stay tuned, and we'll be launching them early next year. Okay, so without much further ado, we will be starting the presentations. Just a few housekeeping rules before they start. Each ambassador will have 6 minutes to present their work. We'll move on to one ambassador after the other. And at the end, if time allows, we'll have a general Q&A for everybody. But over the course of the presentations, please feel free to engage with them in the chat anytime and ask them questions and send your congratulations. They only have a few minutes to present, and so this whole 9 months of work. So they won't be able to tell you every single detail in their short presentation. So feel free to engage with them in the chat, especially if you are interested in working with them and helping them continue this project beyond the ambassador program. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with our first ambassador today, Alejandro from Bogotá, Colombia. Alejandro, take it away.
Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Alejandro. I am environmental engineer and I am currently based in Bogotá, Colombia. Today, I would like to present the project I carry out in the Department of Cundinamarca. It's a region located in the center of the country. The main objective was to evaluate both ambient ambient air and quality and personal exposure to PM 2.5 among students from two schools with very different realities. The first school is ICAM, located in Ubaté. It's a private institution situated in a rural area with very little presence of relevant emission sources. The second school is Miña Ticha in Guachetá. It is a public institution located in a rural area and historically attended by students from families with medium and low income levels. It is located near areas where mining activities take place, which can generate significant emissions. It's important to understand the context of this region. Ubaté has a strong agricultural vocation. Guachetá is characterized by its mining activity. particularly coal extraction and coke production. It's a material used in the steel industry. Despite this difference, the urban areas of both municipalities are separated by only 23 kilometers. In the figure, you can see the different land usings. The pink areas represent the coal mining licenses granted in the region, while the green areas correspond to the urban centers and rural zones. We can observe that Guachetá contains a significant area granted under coal mining exploitation licenses, where Ubaté has none. Next screen, please. Well, the project was divided into three major sections. The first section was the citizen science through the Cuchavira initiative of ICAM School. We established a connection with the educational community of Guachetá, where the most of the work was concentrated. We carry out several activities. The first, informational sessions with parents, students, and teachers at Miña Teacher School, where we explained what air quality is, what is pollutants are, and how they affect the health. Then we conduct a social mapping exercise using the territorial knowledge of local residents. We identified and located a potential emission source such as coke ovens, cold storage centers, freight transport routes, and areas with potentially vulnerable populations. Finally, we work with 10 volunteer students, 5 from Ubaté and 5 from Guachetá, who participated in the personal exposure assessment. With them, we explored the effects of air pollution in greater depth. They learned how to use the Atmotube sensor, and we taught how to record information and georeference a potential emission source during their daily activities. The second section, the fixed monitor. We installed a fixed AirGradient sensor in Guachetá, accompanied via meteorological station. This allowed us to analyze the behavior of air pollution, its relationship with meteorological variables, and the potential identification of source affecting the air quality in the area. The third section was the personal exposure. The volunteer students carried a Atmotube sensor, which recorded the PM concentration to which they were exposed to their daily activities. Additionally, we create a survey 123 form in which the students could record and georeferenced potential emission sources, as well as places with vulnerable populations during their daily routines. And next column, please. Now I would like to share what we are able to analyze during the project. First, we conduct a trend analysis. We found that the hour with the highest PM concentrations occur around 6 a.m., considered with the state of the daily residents heading to work, as well as the time when the students travel to their schools. At this hour, the average hourly concentration reached 31 micrograms. In contrast, the lowest concentrations were recorded between 2 and 4 p.m., which values around 2.3, representing a reduction of 92% compared to the morning peak. We also perform an excellence analysis using the WHO guidelines. We found that during the studying period, 41% of the daily average exceed this guideline. Additionally, we conduct a correlation analysis, as shown in the graph. As wind speed increases, the PM concentrations consistently decrease. This trend held is true every day, regardless of whether it was weekday or weekday or weekend, highlighting the key of the role of wind speed in the dispersing the pollutants. Next, we created a pollutant rose and overlaid it with the social cartography developed during the workshops and with the information reported by the students through survey 123. Thanks to this, we identified the highest PM concentrations originate from the northeast. In this same direction lies the urban area of Guachetá and an industrial complex consisting of cold storage facilities and coke ovens. These elements we identify as the most relevant potential emission sources affecting the air quality in the area. The personal exposure for each student, we create an exposure profile map by processing the data collected with the Atmotube sensor and generate shapefile files. We did not find a general trend. The results depend of each student. In some cases, the highest exposure occurs at home with values over in others, the highest levels were recorded at the school during transport. We also conduct a comparative analysis between the concentrations recorded during the school hours, that is from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., and the rest of the day, considering only weekdays. Overall, in Guachetá, we observe a high variability in the results with an average standard deviation of 22 during the school hours and 19 for the rest of the day. In Ubaté, we observed a greater variability during the school hours with a standard deviation of 22 compared to 7 for the rest of the day. In Guachetá, 4 of 5 volunteers showed a higher average concentration outside the school hours, although the difference was not very large, 11 during the school hours versus 12 for the rest of the day. Also, we do an inferential analysis. Finally, we conduct this analysis to determine whether there were significant differences between the personal exposure levels of the voluntary students from Guachetá and Ubaté. Since the data did not meet the assumptions of normality required for parametric tests, we applied the non-parametric man-Whitney test, which uses the median as the main of measure. The results showed that the medians in Guachetá range from 6 to 15, and the medians in Ubaté range from 3 to 6. The statistical test indicated that there is a significant difference between the two groups of students. This reflects the influence of the local context on exposure levels. Oh, that's all, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Alejandro. And I love that you involved students in these steps. And also I love the different types of maps and plots that you showed us today. Thank you for your work, Alejandro. Our next ambassador is Dorothy from Lima, Peru. Dorothy, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank all of you for being here. I want to show some preliminary results about this project that I am very passionate about called Healthy Routes to Minimize Exposure to Air Pollution in Vulnerable Population, and I have applied it in one of our districts here in Lima, Peru. Next, please. So a little bit about myself. I'm actually a researcher on the making, and I am committed to improving air quality and data accessibility. I'm an environmental engineer, and I'm doing my master's on environmental sciences at the National Agrarian University here, where I also work as a junior researcher for the City Move project. In this specific project, we combined scientific academic research with practical applications to improve physical activity, reduce non-communicable diseases, and minimize exposure to air pollution pollutants in cities. And I do have a little bit of I'm passionate about this because I have worked on projects involving walkability, air quality monitoring, and environmental co-benefits studies. And actually, my goal in being in this program and what led me here is because I want to contribute to reduce the gap in information about air quality in my city and the region. So this came in, and I wanted to explain this before I show why this specific problem and why this specific project that I'm working on. And so I think the ones that we are here, we know that air pollution is a problem in all of our cities. But despite the risk that air pollution, and specifically fine particulate matter, poses in our population, is children the ones that have been overlooked, and adults have been the primary focus on all of our assessments. Even though the global trend is to reduce air pollution in the long term, this is going to take time. And we have the need right now to protect our children, specifically them, because they have little or maybe no decision making power when choosing the places that they are exposed to. So as part of the project that I'm working, the City Mood project, we have two cases studies. One of them is in this specific district called Villa María del Triunfo, which is showcased in the map. And here we have a specific program led by the Peruvian Institutes of Sports, in which children from nearby schools use their sport complex. This is a big sports complex for their physical education classes. So this actually raised a question because children are walking to this place, but are the routes that they are traveling environmentally safe, or are there alternatives routes maybe that they can walk to with lower levels of pollution? So this is the question that we want to answer within the process, because I'm going to show you just some preliminary results. And the proposal was to develop a healthy routes model to minimize the exposure to this specific pollutant called fine particulate matter to this population and apply it to this specific area in Villa María del Triunfo. Next, please. The methodology has 4 stages. First of all, we start with an air quality monitoring, which will serve as the baseline for the generation of the second stage, which will be the generation of pollution maps. Then we're going to estimate exposure to pollutants in this particular group, which mean children. And finally, with all of this information, we will generate the routes with the lowest exposure using some optimization routes algorithms. So in this specific part, we are in the first stage in the air quality monitoring, so I will be focused on that. And in this specific for the air quality monitoring, specifically with low-cost sensors, we did the preparation in the monitoring plaque. We started actually knocking doors because we were new to this place. This is how you usually start if you don't have any previous contact. You started sending letters, making calls, just going to the place and knocking doors to ask for if someone want to join the project. We had actually the luck and the support of the municipality. They were very interested and they helped us contact the schools, and they help us select the specific place to do the monitoring on the field. While we did this while we waited for the sensor delivery, we took a little bit of time. And then we were also preparing the collocation with a reference station. We actually have a normative here in Lima in which if you want to use low-cost sensors, you can do it for academic purposes and to do the studies that you want, but you have to do a collocation first. So we contacted the meteorological service called Senami here. They have an air quality monitoring network of 10 stations, and we put the sensor in one of them for 45 days to do this collocation and these calibrations to adjust the results, and they are more specific results. And then we did the monitoring part. So initially, we only had in mind 4 monitoring points. We were very conservative about that, but we ended up having 9 monitoring points because the schools starting to talk to each other. They wanted to participate in the project. We were actually very happy about that, and sometimes it happened that way. So I would also recommend to be very hopeful about this if you started a monitoring. We used the low-cost AirGradient sensor, fixed point monitoring type, and we did a monitoring of 1 week in each of the monitoring. So we actually had kind of 2 to 3 months. Next, please. So just to sum up, and some preliminary results that we did, we actually found that the PM 2.5 and PM 10 concentrations exceeded the limits of the World Health Organization national standards. They have critical points during the days, especially in peak traffic hours. I wanted to point out the effective collaboration between multiple stakeholders is very key, was essential, at least for this specific project and the data collection campaign. the selection of monitoring points, as I mentioned, always present both methodological and operational challenges. I think we all know that, I mean, people that does monitoring on the field knows that even though you sometimes plan for everything, some things go wrong and some things you have to get creative and you just have to be flexible about that. And while the experience revealed that environmental monitoring with local sensors requires, well, not only technical experts, but also institutional collaboration and engagement. And while the presented here are preliminary results, they provide a valuable first overview of the air pollution levels. In one of our training sessions, actually, one of the speakers mentioned you sometimes need just one sensor to start a conversation. And that's why we're trying to do here. Hopefully this will be the first step to keep doing this, specifically in these areas that have no kind of information. So that will be all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. And I love that schools were volunteering and super willing to participate. So thank you for sharing your work. We will move on to Naaima. Naaima from Morocco.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Naaima from Morocco. My capstone project is basically a dashboard on air quality data for both Guerir city and Marrakesh city in Morocco using sensors of AirGradient, Atmotube Pro, and also combined with Power BI decision-making platform. Next, please. So a little presentation about me. Naaima, I work as a data science engineer with the African Resource Center on Air Quality and Climate at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University in Morocco. So as I mentioned, my capstone project is basically an interactive dashboard of our quality data from like both cities, Marrakesh and Guerir, and also some data coming from Shanghai using Atmotube Pro. So as you might know, the African continent is a very scarce area when it comes to air quality data due to lack of monitoring instruments as well as limited sharing policies from governments of our countries. And Guerir city is located near Marrakesh. It's known for mining activities, mainly the extraction of phosphates from rocks, resulting in loss of dust. And for Marrakesh, a lot of tourist activities and industry pollution exceeding basically the WHO standards in both cities, as might the results can show later on. Yeah, so these pictures are basically from the locations where sensors are deployed. The first one is me at the metro of Shanghai. The second is the entrance of the architecture school inside the UM6P campus in Guerir. Another one, the third one is also in the campus, but it's in a different area because it's like a very huge campus. Then this place is very old, so there's a lot of activities around, a lot of students around the place, as well as constructions going around the campus. For the last one, it's actually from Marrakesh. You can see that Marrakesh is in the middle, and then this place is a little bit away from the city, but there's a lot of industries around the place. Next, please. So for the methodology of this project, I used the data gathered from different sensors, including AirGradient sensors and Atmotube Pro datasets, data ranging from mid-2024 until November 2025. So these collected datasets were standardized and cleaned data to import it to Power BI platform, and then I have basically arranged a lot of plots that mainly, show a lot of insights from data, mainly time series, bar plots, etc. So for the results, yes, for the dashboards are now like available online through Power BI. So we can click on the link later on so that you can have an idea on the dashboards. So for the results, air quality in Guerir city is mainly influenced by particulate matter, coal dust coming from the phosphate mining activities and extraction of phosphate from the rocks, etc. Also, some results here. You can see here these plots are coming from Atmotube through. So some of the data is also indoor. You can see the peaks here. So for these two plots here, this one is for volatile organic compound concentration in the city. The peak here basically was from an indoor place where there's a lot of cooking, and then there was a lot of poor ventilation of the space. Therefore, there's a lot of pollutants inside the place. The one in green is particulate matter 1, 2.5, and 10 micrograms per meter cube in the Guerir city. The other ones on the side are also the same, but from Shanghai for the period of November. Colleen, can you please show the dashboard? Okay. So here we have 4 dashboards, each for each sensor, including Atmotube Pro. Here we have these cards showing like insights on the whole data set. So for example, here we have the maximum particulate matter microgram per meter cube. So you can see there's like the max was around 300 microgram per meter cube, which definitely exceeds all the guidelines. Here we have the minimum of the temperature, the max, which is normal since Guerir city is basically has semi-arid weather, so there's during summer it's very hot. So here we also have the mean of CO2 and the mean of humidity. So for this dashboard below, it's the average concentration. Thank you. Of particulate matter over time from April 2025 until November 2025, with a little stop from from May to June due to connection issues. But you can see here the variation of PMs. It definitely, I would say, like PM 2.5. You can see that it's a little bit above 50 from like all over the time. So also here I have presented a plot of average temperature with the NOx index by month from March to November, and then the plot with the bars the bar plots is basically the particulate matter in the mean of heat index and the average temperature, but it's more in details. You can scroll to show all the months, all the days during all the months for the historical data, so you can read more like when the days when the average of particulate matter are very high, but usually it exceeds 20 microgram per meter cube. I don't know if I still have time, but then you can also click on the and there just to change the dashboard for each sensor. The last one is basically about a comparison between Shanghai and Guerir city using Atmotube Pro. The fourth one. Yeah, so here you can see basically at some point there was like above 1,000 microgram per meter cube of PM 2.5 and PM 10. And that was due to the incident I told you about, the indoor poor ventilation restaurants. Yeah, so for the conclusion, yeah, so for the conclusions, you might see there's a lot of particulate matter in all the cities, Marrakesh, Guerir, and also Shanghai. There was a little peaks, but not as much as in Morocco. And some of the recommendation that I would try to considering for the dashboards is basically to implement like explanations on different pollutants in order to explain to people, users who might not be experts, and in air quality to just know more on the pollutants and to understand when it's exceeding the accepted levels. So for the future work, I'm considering to integrate Power BI with OpenAQ API in order to have data in real time coming from sensors. And that's when we have like another huge network of sensors all over maybe Morocco or other places. So that's it for my own. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Naaima, and we're excited. Folks, please visit the Power BI dashboard. I also linked it in the chat. Okay, our next ambassador is Dhouha from Tunisia. Dhouha, take it away.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Naaima, and all my colleagues. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today. I'm Dhouha Ouerfelli. I'm presenting a two-scale assessment of air quality gaps, exposure risks, and awareness needs in Tunisia. But before moving to why the air quality assessment, next, please, Colleen. Before moving, why air quality assessment is necessary in Tunisia, I would like to have a brief introduction of myself. I'm a research assistant at the Eratosthenes Center of Excellence in Cyprus with a background in agronomic engineer specialized in geoinformation and environmental management. My work targets the use of advanced technologies like remote sensing and GIS to monitor and assess environmental issues such as greenhouse gas emissions, soil pollution, land degradation, etc. I'm also an active member with the Tunisian Wildlife Association and a Tunisian NGO focusing in wildlife conservation. Why air quality assessment is important and urgent need in Tunisia. What you're seeing in these images come from a very recent incidents happened in this October in Gabes, near the chemical industrial zones in South Tunisia. Residents, including students in primary school, suddenly experienced severe breathing difficulties and fainting after exposure to very toxic emissions from the chemical hub next to them. Emergency services were overwhelmed and the entire community was in a state of panic. This is not an isolated event. It's recurring for many years, and the people of Gabes, like every other region in the south next to the chemical hubs in Tunisia, have been living next to intense industrial activity without reliable or transparent air quality data. When something like this as incident happened, there is no early warning system, no real-time monitoring, and no way for authorities or even the citizen to know what they are breathing. Thus, this study, it is a preliminary work to make more data about the air quality and available for public, and all, which allow us to detect dangerous pollutant, identify a little bit of their sources, and try to prevent with upcoming work these emergencies from happening again. Next. On this slide, I will be presenting the methodology using two different low-cost sensors, but equally important source of exposure that we currently trying to study. Pollution from the chemical group in equally to Gabes 1, which is in Villa, and the daily pollution that students in university facing every day during their daily walk to the university. First, let's look at the situation around the chemical hub in the Villa. The data revealed persistent and spiking particulate pollution, where the daily average PM 2.5 and PM1 levels typically range between 20 and 40 microgram per cubic meter, which is already exceeding the WHO safety guideline. But we also see frequent spikes reaching 80 microgram per cubic meter. What's particularly important is when these spikes occur. They rise sharply early in the morning and again after 6 p.m. These patterns aligns perfectly with the both rush hour traffic and the very well known by citizens the operational schedule of the nearby phosphate chemical facilities. This strongly suggests that these peaks are not just randomly, but they are really linked to the local industrial, specifically the local industrial activity of the chemical hub. The other part, when we come to the daily exposure of the students in universities, we can see even if it is outside the industrial zones and the main cities, the data shows consistently high levels of PM 2.5 from traffic alone. During the morning and evening shifts, pollution regularly exceeds 60 micrograms per cubic meter, which are more like not safe limits. And this has happened nearly every day. Next, please. So for Tunisia, the air quality is severely impacted by not only the industrial chemical activities, but also the traffic pollution, with PM 2.5 levels often reaching unhealthy levels. This crisis is exacerbated by an insufficient, non-transparent national monitoring network and a lack of public awareness. What we recommend is expanding and verify the monitoring networking by increasing the number of reliable air quality sensors, especially in these industrial areas. Implement source-specific mitigation measures like enforcing stricter regulation on industrial emissions in areas like Villa and Gabes, and increasing public awareness by launching more public health campaigns on the danger of air pollution and develop more emergency response plans. Well, in the future, and as this one is only preliminary work for what we are currently doing with two NGOs in Tunisia, we are planning to conduct detailed source portion studies, which mainly focusing precisely identifying, quantify the contribution of some specific pollution sources like the specific factory units, and investigate health impacts where we focus on research on the direct health effects on the observed pollution spikes on local population. And we aim to broaden the monitoring scopes by expanding mobile and fixed site monitoring to more location in underrepresented representative regions. That's all for my side, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Dhouha. And it's really interesting to learn about the different contexts of pollution. And from your side, we learned that there is a lot of influence from industry as well. Okay, moving on to Seiko. Seiko from the Gambia, take it away.
Hello everyone, I am Sekou Kamara and I work at the Directorate of Public Health Services. So my capstone project was on assessing PM 2.5 exposure among Bullock quarry workers in the Gambia during various activities. So that I am a public health officer and I hold a bachelor's degree in public and environmental health. So the reason why I embarked on this project is because currently the air quality monitoring that is ongoing in my country is area based. So basically ambient measurement or monitoring is being done across the country, and that is the map you see down here. And also because there has been an increase in construction related activities due to urbanization. So these are some of the pictures from some of the quarries that I visited. So this is the site where the quarry worker who was assigned to handle the Atmotube Pro works. So this is the quarry site. So for the personal exposure monitoring, I use the Atmotube Pro air quality monitor, and then the sampling was purposive sampling. I wanted to make sure that the Quarry site was actually fit to be used. So I use the Atmotube mobile app to do my data extraction, and then I compare this with the API cloud, even though mainly I use the mobile app. So I use the R software to do my analysis, and then the monitoring with regards to the personal exposure to PM 2.5 was done for about a month. So that is why you see this graph here. So you can see that during the monitoring period, there were times that no recording was done simply because the device was down whilst it was with the subject or the participant. But also you can see that there were days that the daily average PM concentrations was above the WHO guideline for PM 2.5, which is 15. So down here, figure 4A shows the proportion of PM 2.5 concentration between work and off hours. So you can see that the PM 2.5 concentration during work hours is less than during off hours, which is 51.6% if you proportionate. So for PM 2.5, so for the PM 2.5 exposure between work and work hours, so this is the personal exposure concentration. It is still more during off hours, 55.3 compared to work hours. So figure 5 shows the average PM 2.5 concentration by activity period. So the day was divided into off hours, commuting hours, and then working hours. And then off hours has the highest average PM 2.5 concentration, which was 16.9 micrograms per cubic meter, compared to commuting hours and then working hours. So working hours is less, 15.7. So this other graph here shows the daily time weighted average PM 2.5 by activity period. So in this case, I only used the off hours and then working hours, and then excluded the commuting hours, and then added the commuting hours to the off hours. So you can see these are the monitoring days, and then we can see that if in off hours there were days that the time weighted average PM 2.5 was above the WHO guideline, which is 15. So this can be seen in many of these days, and then both for off hours and working hours. So this other plot here, 7B, is showing the time of the day when PM 2.5 concentrations or hourly average PM 2.5 concentrations across the monitoring days are either high or low. So you can see during working hours, which is between 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., you can see that the concentration or the PM 2.5, the hourly average PM 2.5 concentration keeps on fluctuating. So basically it's not always up during working hours. And you can also see that during off hours, like 9 p.m. during the night, you can still see that the concentration is a bit up there, even though that is during off hours. So this other graph here you see here is the it's a screenshot from the AirGradient dashboard. So this was some time in October. So you can see some hours had very high PM 2.5 concentrations. So in conclusion, I would just like to say that quarry workers in the Gambia face exposure, both at work and when they are off work. So this compounds the overall PM 2.5 exposure that they face. So the recommendation is to make sure that the mitigation and control mechanisms consider 24 hours monitoring across both work and off hours. So that's very, very important. So finally, I aim to have discussion sessions with the quarry workers and college and university students so that they become advocates for cleaner air. Thank you.
Thank you, Seiko, and thank you for sharing about the quarry workers and their exposure. I like that you have this work hours versus work hours delineation. Thank you for sharing your work. We will move on to Elizabeth from Uganda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Colleen, and thank you to the OpenAQ Ambassador Program. I'm very, very grateful. It's been an amazing 9 months. My name is Elizabeth Choncho. I come from Uganda. I'm currently in Kampala. And my title of the capstone project is Deploying Local Sensors to Address Air Quality Data Gaps in Urban and Semi-Urban Uganda. I am a public health. Next slide, please, Colleen. I'm a public health and environmental communication specialist from Uganda. I'm also a nutritionist and the only nutritionist on the cohort. I work with the African Center for Clean Air on the SOUL project, which is looking at reducing air pollution by addressing Uganda's organic waste management problem. And my work focuses mostly on coordinating stakeholder engagement, supporting the different activities, and because of my background in communications, translating air quality evidence and recommendations into clear messaging for our different stakeholders and our audiences. And my capstone project is based on the problem statement hinges around the increasing air pollution issue in Uganda, and yet the capacity to monitor air quality is still limited. And although, yes, we have existing networks, for instance, we have an amazing, the amazing team at AirCo that has built a network, and also the Kampala City Council Authority. But then most of these networks exist in the Central Business District in Kampala, and a few other major cities like Jinja in the east, Mbarara in the west, Gulu in the north, and the like. But this leaves a big data gap in the growing semi-urban areas, because what about the semi-urban areas? They're rapidly developing, and in a few years, they're going to reach Kampala levels, and yet the level of air pollution, as you will see in the data that I collected, the level of air pollution is just as high as it is in the capital city. So we need to use low-cost sensors because they are a practical solution. We know this. They are affordable and they are accessible. And that is what I used, because we need the data from these areas. Without the data, the problem stays invisible. But with the data, it becomes impossible to ignore. So my capstone project addressed the air quality data gaps through 3 different initiatives. 1, event-based monitoring, and 2, ambient air quality monitoring with support from local government. We'll look at that later. And then we also did an evaluation of different transport routes in downtown Kampala. From the different diagrams there, you can look at the air quality networks, where you can see they're concentrated in particular areas. And then there are so many areas that we do not have data from. Next, Colleen. Let me take you briefly through the methodology. First, event-based monitoring. We did this at the annual Rotary Cancer Run. My colleague there went through the run and he carried the Atmotube Pro, and he measured air pollution before the event, before the run, during the run, and after the run. And what's interesting about the data that we got is that runners were exposed to the highest levels of air pollution after the run, and this was most likely due to the cooking smoke, especially from the grills and cooking areas where people were celebrating from after they had run, and also dust from the different activities. There was a lot of dancing and movement, and the crowds lifted the dust from the air. So that's why we had a lot of air pollution after the event. Second, next, Colleen, if you could show the different graphs, please. So this is the graph from the Rotary Cancer Run, and you can see the spikes. Before the event is in red, during the event is that initial bit, and then that high spike was after the event, where we had a lot of grilling meat and what have you, and dancing at the grounds. So next we had mobile monitoring in downtown Kampala. This was done over the course of 2 weeks, and we were looking at the exposure, air pollution exposure to pedestrians when they use a motorized route and a non-motorized transport route. And the monitors were worn by 2 pedestrians who are students from Chambogo University and Makerere University. So they wore the monitors and they measured air pollution simultaneously between 8 to 9 a.m., which is a peak hour, and the measurements were captured every minute. So based on that graph that you can see, there is an overlap, meaning regardless of whether a pedestrian is using the motorized transport route or the non-motorized one, they were still exposed to high levels of air pollution. And we saw levels 6 to 7 times WHO guidelines. And luckily, for people who use the non-motorized transport route, there was a 10% reduction in their exposure to air pollution, which is good, but you'd expect that number, that value to be higher. So when we looked at that, we had to ask ourselves why was that the way? And then we did a little bit of research, and we found that the non-motorized transport corridor in downtown Kampala is a pilot. It's the first of its kind in Uganda. And when it was constructed, there were a few issues that were not taken into consideration, and they only came up at the end. 1 minute left. So let me just move on to the next one, which is also very important. It's still currently being done, and it is stationary monitoring at the Nansana Municipal Council offices. We installed the AirGradient there, and it's collecting continuous air quality data. From this graph, you can see when the air pollution is highest. We saw the 3 particular days in the month of November where it was highest, 18th, 19th, and 20th. And we've also been able to see when the peak hours for air pollution are in that particular locality. So moving on, Colleen, next slide. I would like to take you through some of the conclusions, recommendations for future work. Local sensors definitely can fill the gap. We know this, and throughout all this, we realize that we have limited resources, and for you to manage doing this work with limited resources, you really have to collaborate and leverage any partnerships that you can find. The partnership with the Nansana Municipal Council local government has been very helpful, and also we need to improvise and adjust based on real-time challenges as we are doing this kind of work. So guidance for future researchers, they need to plan for co-location and monitor calibration, especially because we have a lot of load shedding, and I had a very big challenge here because there was a lot of load shedding. So our monitors, if we can get monitors that have additional power sources, power banks, or get power from solar, that would be ideal. And then we need to create guidelines. I'll be working on this with the Nansana Municipal Council team, creating guidelines for data cleaning, storage, and visualization. And then, of course, building trust and partnerships is important when it comes to allowing them to own the project. And then for my next steps, I'll continue the pilot. I have 5 weeks left, and I'll also do capacity building for the Environment Department team. I will share and publicize the data. The Nansana Municipal Council, we are having elections in January, so I'll have to publicize the data both with the old one, hopefully, and also with the new leadership. And then we are pursuing funding to grow the Nansana Air Quality Monitoring Network, particularly the African Clean Air Network Sensor Bank Scheme. Hopefully that will be successful. And I'm also part of the team that's doing the Kampala community walk, where we walk in different parts of Kampala and collect air quality data as we advocate for it. So those are the people that I would like to really appreciate that have made this work possible. I'll not go into detail, but I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Over to you, Colleen.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I love that you have the support of all these folks. You were able to engage the local government, and I also noticed that you were very resourceful in terms of other sensors that you were able to use. So thank you for sharing that. We'll move on to Oscar from Rwanda. Oscar.
Yes, thank you, Karin. Karin, sorry. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. So my name is Oscar Mwanswemremyi. I'm from Rwanda, and I'm currently going to present monitoring local air quality using low-cost sensor in order to enhance community awareness. So I did this case study in Skuruzi Kalonji district, which is the western part of Rwanda. Next, Colin. So, as Oscar is, I hold a bachelor degree in applied chemistry from University of Rwanda, and I hold a post-diploma in wastewater and drinking water treatment from University of Genoa in Italy, and I hold a master's of science in natural resources and environmental management from IPB University in Indonesia, and I'm currently working as a museum management specialist at Environmental Museum under Rwanda Cultural Heritage Academy in Rwanda. So I possess 10 years of professional experiences in nature and cultural tourism, and my research is focusing on environmental pollution, environmental degradation, and the natural resources management. So let's go in. Much more has been said, but let's see what's the difference in Rwanda. And the air quality, as many people said, air pollution is a big problem, a global concern, for which is affecting environment and the public health. So when we look into Rwanda, in Rwanda now, air pollution is currently reading death in Rwanda, and but the government is responding by trying to mitigate air pollution by introducing the electrical car and the electrical motors, and also so far they have set about 23 sites for monitoring air quality, but there is still some area where the sensors they are not yet deployed. This is the case for my study area where there is no sensor or no local sensor. Next, Colin. So the methodology I used during this research, of course, I deployed Atmotube Pro for 3 months and the AirGradient for 28 days. AirGradient was used for the schools, where I selected 4 schools. One are the secondary school, 3 are the secondary schools, and another one is polytechnical schools. And then another one is to walk through the city from my working place to the home stage, but I'm passing through the city center where I was working with this AirGradient. But in order to get this to conduct this research, I need to fund a permission, where I really appreciate the support from Dr. Msengman Antoine, who is here in this room, for his unlimited support with him and his institution, so that I get this permission to conduct my research. Then when we look for the result, of course, you see that 2 photos for me when I was deploying the sensors there. And then for the below graph is about ppm in one of the schools. As you see, ppm, most of the ppm 1, ppm 10, ppm 2.5, most of them, they were above of recommendation, which means they are it's a major problem. People, they are being exposed. And then even when we look also on Atmotube, we see it's the same issue. Most of the ppm that we measured, they are above of recommended levels from WHO and also recent studies. And also we measure the other pollutant like a VOC, TVOC, and most of them we found also the concentration, they are very high. And we were also looking into the other environmental condition, let's say temperature and humidity. And what we saw is that when the temperature was increasing, the humidity was decreasing, and also they were affecting pollutant in different ways. Sorry. The next, Corey. So the conclusion, this research showed that air pollution is a concern in the monitored score, and we found that PM1, PM2.5, and PM10, they are exceeding recommended guidelines values. And when we look for recommendation, we would suggest the schools to be open during rainy season, because we found that during rainy season, the pollution is lower compared to the summer. And also we encourage to use electrical car and the motors, because during the peak hour and we saw that there was higher concentration compared to the other hours. And then without data, there is nothing. So we encourage also to deploy that sensors so that they can get data to know how the condition is. Lastly, we are recommending to restrict waste burning, because sometimes you can see in the rural area or nearby, people, they are still burning waste, which is not the case in Rwanda. Then for future work, we are planning to do awareness, because the time was not timeline, so we are going to conduct workshop about air pollution in the schools, in these 3 secondary schools. We are now in touch. We are waiting to them for finishing their course so that we go in. And also we are going to make a paper so that we publish in a journal for more awareness. And of course, lastly, I'm looking for PhD and the other opportunities which might give me opportunity to use frequently the air sensor. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And as you may notice, there are similar themes, really focusing on schools, children, students, and many vulnerable populations. So thank you for sharing your work, Oscar, and we wish you well in the PhD, looking for a PhD program. If we have folks in the audience interested in working with Oscar there. We'll move on to Ashik. Ashik from Bangalore, India.
Yes. Hello, everybody. A very good evening. First of all, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. So this program has been really wonderful. So just giving a small introduction about myself. I'm Ashik. I'm a founder of a startup called as Panjurli Labs Private Limited. We are a company who are working on sustainable air purification. So about my capstone project, we work on analyzing the industrial pollution and testing ways to reduce the pollution concentration, and we did this study in industrial facilities in Bangalore. Next slide, please. Yes. So just as I mentioned during my startup journey, I used to interact with a lot of industries, and one thing which I frequently observed was that the air pollution in most of these industries are very high. So whenever the air quality goes above a certain limit in cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, people panic. But the poor industrial workers are actually working in places where the air quality is extremely poor, and not a lot of work is being done in this segment. So I always had this in mind that we need to do something. So when my company developed a sustainable air purification solution, we wanted to test it out. And at that right moment, I got selected to the OpenAQ program. And we also got the facility to use the AirGradient and the Atmotube sensors. So what we did was, firstly, we selected 2 kinds of industries. One where particulate concentration is very, very high. So for this, we used a fabrication industry where frequent metal cutting, bending, and polishing activities were done. Here we observed the particulate matter concentration to be extremely high. At the same time, when we looked at it through a quantitative lens, also the particles were mainly metal or heavy chemicals, which are extremely hazardous. Second type of industry was a aerospace industry, which used a lot of chemical resins to combine materials. So even there, the concentration of VOC was extremely high. And one thing which we observed was, in most of these industries, the frontline workers were basically from a migrant community, and even at the homes, they do not have access to clean air. And even in the industry where they spend around 10 to 12 hours a day, even there they were exposed to dangerously high levels of pollutants. Next slide, please. So, through this capstone project, we installed our air purifiers with self-cleaning filters in both the facilities. So, through this, we use the air quality monitor, air gradient to actually measure the particulate concentration in fabrication facility, and Atmotube to measure VOC in the aerospace industry. So, the project took for about a month, where 1 month we studied with the air quality trends without the monitors, and 1 month with the monitors. So, as far as the fabrication industry goes, we were able to see around 93% reduction in particulate matter concentration after installing air purifiers. Also, we could see a lot of dust that's being collected on our filters. In the VOC facility, we could see around 93.1% reduction in levels of VOC. And next slide, please. After this, we took both this data and approached various industrial association. At the same time, the government bodies like Pollution Control Board and also the Ministry of Labor Welfare. So we showed this case study and we demonstrated that how air quality can be improved with right kind of products and right facilities inside the factory. And by that they were very happy, and they even recommended us to some of the industries which were categorized as red grade industry, where pollution concentration was extremely high. And in the future, now we have had this tie-up with both the government organizations, and using the monitors, we are now conducting free air quality surveys to the micro, small, and medium industries in Bangalore industrial areas, where the industries who are not aware about their air quality can actually see what is air quality and which processes emit what quantity of pollution. Based on that, they can take preventive actions to one, reduce the emission of pollutants. Second thing, to safeguard the workers' health over there. So this sort of concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashik. And again, we're seeing these themes of the focus on the vulnerable workers. So thank you so much for your work, Ashik, and for sharing with us the effectivity of the purifiers that you are installing. We'll move on to the very last presentation for today, Anshika from New Delhi. Anshika, take it away.
Hi everyone. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone there. So I'm Anshika Kansal, New Delhi, India. I'm working with an organization, Lung Care Foundation, in the project Doctors for Clean Air and Climate Action. The uh, this project, which is the air we breathe from numbers to insights. Uh, Via this project, I've just basically tried to use the low-cost sensor to understand what real-world emission behavior could be like in an urban neighborhood. The aim with the project is basically to translate air quality numbers into some insights, which could be able to drive some awareness, policy action, and ultimately public health protection. Basically, the work that I have also been doing with Doctors for Clean Air at Lung Care Foundation. Next slide, please, Colleen. Yeah. So at this point, most of us are very well aware that Delhi NCR stand for National Capital Region. So Delhi NCR's children breathe some of the most polluted air in the world, and the basic tasks of them, as such as just going out for learning opportunities in order to go to school, just to learn, to get better, just to go out, move out to play. Activities like this could be disastrous for the children, the little kids during commute hours, so to say. Thus, this pollution, the traffic related air pollution trap, can rise up to threefold just because of traffic and vehicle idling situation that we have. Since children inhale more air per body weight, that makes them disproportionately vulnerable to these short, intense bursts. But despite all of this evidence that we have almost no microenvironment level data that shows what children and, as a matter of fact, the people living nearby actually inhale at the school gates or in residential setups. So this project was basically what I was aiming was to monitor a school zone, but contrary to Dorothee's experience in this entire scenario, I did not uh, gather a positive response from the school, and considering the limited time available, I had to pivot the entire project to a residential society with a heavy traffic movement within just 1 kilometer radius of the school, which is again the best I could do in terms of having another scientifically valid microenvironment to understand these vehicular emissions and their health implications. The core objective, however, remained unchanged. It was to generate localized low-cost sensor evidence on temporal pollution patterns, combustion signatures, and BM exceedances against Indian NAAQS, National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and using these insights to drive practical anti-idling measures and strengthen public awareness to better protect community health, especially children. Next slide, please, colleague. Yeah, so the methodology basically included deploying the sensor, getting the data, conducting the various data analysis, and then using the analysis for driving some of the activities that were aimed at. So the graphs that you see on the right side of the screen, I shall begin with the first one. The green one that is visible with the shaded region, it evidently shows that how there were evident morning peaks around 6 to 9 a.m., exactly the time when children step out for school, exposing them to some of the highest concentrations of the day. And then again, sometime around evening, when people are and students are out to play, and the people who have went for work have been coming back around this time. However, the afternoon time is the time when mixing, the dispersion, all of that is the strongest, and we see the cleanest period around that time. Apart from that, another interesting graph I would like everyone to see is the one towards the right. The pink graph, the shaded graph that you can see, is basically the graph that shows that how the 24-hour mean, the average 24-hour PM 2.5 PM10 concentrations were exceeding the Indian NAQS limits every single day. There was not a single day or even a single hour that met national safe standards. The national safe standards of our country are already very, very flexible and liberal as compared to the WHO standards. It is 60 microgram. And as we can see, the blue bar chart below the pink graph, it shows the number of hours when the levels or the concentration of particulate matter was higher than NAQS. And as it is visible, all the 24 hours that we had, it was exceptionally higher than the entire scenario. To make this data more consumable for the local people, I further exploited the Berkeley's tool that we have, which tells that every PM 2.5, every 22 microgram of PM 2.5 is equivalent to smoking one cigarette. So the graph that you see here left, that first graph basically just tells us the average PM 2.5 concentration was such during this time that the little kids who are just stepping out of their homes to go to school were potentially breathing as much as 17 to 20 cigarettes per hour. And this is this is not something that anyone would like it. But one important thing to note here is also the fact that I was expecting some idling signatures because initially the plan was to be done at a school. But here, I would like everyone to note that the pollution that was observed here was driven mainly by the influx and outflux of vehicles. But this also reinforces why we need to do such studies in school as I originally aimed, because idling and congestion are very, very significantly more intense there. Next slide, please, Pauline. Yeah. So, although I did not include all the charts here, but I did a couple of more analysis to ascertain that the particulate matter or the pollutant concentration as a whole that we have received around the residential society, is it related to traffic or not? So various other analyses were done, and it was established as much as we could. I concluded that the microenvironment around the gate is indeed dominated by fine combustion aerosols, which is not dust. And with the contextual information that we have, it is the traffic. And the peak exposure obviously then coincides with the times children and residents step outside, particularly in the morning. And these are the times which are very, very disproportionately harmful for the people stepping out, especially for the vulnerable population, as well as the people who are the personals who are employed at gate. So that is very, very risky for them. The recommendations of the future work that I really look forward to with this work is, as I mentioned, I was aiming to conduct this experiment at this project at a school. So I really aim that I would be able to take this up even after this project ends. I would be able to somehow take this to a school and develop this entire thing in a school. And I aim to develop an entire no idling toolkit for every school. This would be a policy toolkit, including a lot of documents. I have some ideas around that, which can be taken up to relevant authorities. Uh, so yeah, this was basically about this project that I did. This project basically just shows us that how, like Dorothy was also mentioning, how a single low-cost sensor can uncover such disaster truths. It can start conversations and can also help us translate these numbers into direct health implications, especially for young children in my case. So as I said, my aim is now to take this evidence beyond this analysis and this presentation and into uh, actual public discourse and policy, so that the clean air that we think about becomes achievable, not just an aspiration. And the air quality data that we talk about is not an abstract or an intangible concept for us, but it becomes more actionable for us as a society. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anshika. And I also commend you for the resourcefulness that you and honesty in the beginning there about, pivoting in the deployment. And this is true for all of our ambassadors. They've had to pivot a lot during the course of their program, and they are also all very resourceful and patient and able to, if they come across obstacles along their way in receiving the sensors or deploying the sensors. They were all very patient about it and very resourceful. At this point, I would like to invite everybody to please continue to engage with our ambassadors, and feel free to contact them. Feel free to reach out to them. They've put their LinkedIn in each of the slides. I hope you were able to catch that. We are also recording this and we'll be sharing it widely. So please feel free. And as you've heard, a lot of them, they have plans to continue on these projects. And at this point, I would like to call on our Executive Director, Chris Hayer-Bomber, to give us a few more encouraging words for our ambassadors.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris, and I would also like to say that Pallavi Panth, who is our chair of our board of directors, is with us today. She's been making many comments. I was really struck by how your projects embodied this concept of what's called targeted universalism. What I mean by that is when we reduce pollution to levels that are safe for the most vulnerable communities, the school children, the daily wage workers, everybody is going to breathe cleaner air. So on behalf of OpenAQ, including our board of directors, I wholeheartedly congratulate every one of you. You developed and executed really unique projects. You put significant time and effort into expanding your air quality skills. You supported each other over this course of a year. And we're really honored to have had the opportunity to work with you. We're really inspired by what you've done, and we really look forward to what you're going to do next. We want you to stay connected to us. And I formally announce you graduates of the OpenAQ Community Ambassador Program.
Virtual applause. I hope we can all hear everybody like clapping, but please feel free to use the reactions also. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Thank you for your support. I know that you all are always in the background supporting our ambassadors and being here when they are presenting their presentations. But thank you all for your time today, and congratulations to our ambassadors. You are now officially graduates of the Community Ambassador Program. Again, I invite everybody to please continue engaging with our ambassadors. We also have our alumni ambassadors in here. Feel free to continue engaging. We also have our ambassador website, ambassadors@openaq.org. And in early next year, we will be launching the 2026 cohort, hopefully 10 completely new countries. So we continue to expand this program. And again, if you are interested in supporting the program, we are always here to encourage that support. Please feel free to reach out. Okay, cool. Everybody, thank you all so much for your time today. Congratulations, ambassadors.